So, March 22nd, 2021. This is a day that is pretty important to me. Reason for that being, so on that day, I got paid. My previous job, I was paid bi-monthly, so it was twice a month, on the 7th and on the 22nd every time. March 22nd specifically was at the end of the quarter, and because it was at the end of the quarter, we got a bonus. I don't remember what my bonus was, and usually what I would try to do is okay, most of this is just going to be paying off some debt, paying off a little bit of credit card, trying to pay off some of my student loan, and then a little bit on the side to splurge on something, like buy a new game or whatever. So on that day, I remember going to Bug Clay, and I was like, hey, I just finished playing Muv-Luv. I want to play something new. I've got a little bit of money. I want to splurge on a new game. What should I get? And he kind of thinks for a moment. He's like, well, you finished Cold Steel 1 back at the very start of October, and you liked it, but you wanted to kind of do some other stuff. You've done some other stuff. Why don't you go ahead and get Cold Steel 2? And I remember just kind of staring at him blankly, not saying anything for a moment, and then immediately running to my PS4. I was like, all right, you're right. That is what I should do. Because I really liked 1. Let's play 2. Got it. Let it download. I think went to take a walk. Came back. Started playing it. And even though it was not my first Trails game, like I said, that was Cold Steel 1. This to me is when my Trails experience, when my Kiseki journey truly started. Because from then until, it was September 20th, somewhere around there, of the same year. From that point onwards, I was just playing all of them. Cold Steel 2, and then, oh shit, this was really, really good. And now I know that it's not like most JRPGs where, Final Fantasy, you can play one and not play any of the others. Unless it's the 13 is a trilogy, 7 has its own MCU cinematic universe. But most of the time, you can play games completely independently of another. Tales, same shit. Persona, same shit. I think 1 and 2 are actually sequels to each other, which I still need to play at some point. For the most part, most long-running JRPG series, each main entity is completely distinct from the others. Trails is not that. It is one continuous story, and the first 2 games I played were 6 and 7. And it made me go, okay, I need to play these others. And so, yeah, played the Sky games, played Zero, played Azure, and then it was okay, now I can go back to Erebonia, played Cold Steel 3, played Cold Steel 4, and then I had to wait about a year for Reverie to get translated, so I could play that, and then for Kuro to come out and also be translated. So, this one is the one, even though, like I've said, Cold Steel, first one I played, Cold Steel 2 is the one that I feel this, really strong nostalgic attachment to. This is the one that made me want to play these games and actively do it. So even though the game has its problems, it has its flaws, it has its shortcomings, it is not a perfect experience. I'm a lot more forgiving of Cold Steel 2 than I am of some of the other games and what I feel are some of their flaws and shortcomings. So while I will not gloss over them, this is less of a critical, okay, this is some of the things the game does wrong, and more of just me gushing about how much I love this game, because I really, really do. So let's get on with Cold Steel 2, starting with the presentation. So it's a little bit of copy and pasting from what I said about the first game, because, yeah, it still looks kind of cheap. I'm not gonna lie, something about the models and the animation, because I was actually rewatching a couple videos just to make sure it's what song plays in this section, what song plays in this section. Again, I try to do most of this just from my own memory and experience, but I'll look into a couple things. The game, the models look like Tales of Symphonia, which I don't mind in Tales of Symphonia, because that came out, when did that come out? I want to say it came out in 02, 04, somewhere around there. I look at that, and it looks like it's an older game, but it feels like it was a game of its era. This just looks cheap, because, no, I've seen stuff of that era, and, I also get it, Cold Steel was a handheld, but I've also seen handheld games that hold up really well, so it still kind of looks cheap, and it does distract as much as I hate to say it. But the things that are different. I think the music is more memorable in this game. Now, I will admit, I completely forgot to bring up Decisive Collision when I was talking about Cold Steel 1. That is the final boss theme, and it also shows up in this game. Track fucking slaps. The Blue Destination, which I believe it's the Divine Knight theme, and I know it also plays... I believe it's when you fight Crow during the intermission. You also get it. It's Decisive Collision and Blue Destination are the Reen Crow themes, and they're both fantastic. Heated Mind, the battle theme. So I believe I said when I was talking about Asher that Trails generally has two kinds of battle themes. Get you really hyped and more emotional, more atmospheric kind of themes. Heated Mind is kind of in the middle. Like, it sounds like it's one of the more atmospheric, emotional themes. But the vibe I get when I listen to it, given especially the context of the story, it, to me, really reflects Reen's emotional state at the start of the game. It is this loneliness. It is this desperation and just desperation to get his friends back, frustration at the situation he's in, with also just this anger. And I really do get that when I listen to the song. And so on the one hand, it is like, it's very atmospheric and emotional. It also does kind of get me hyped. It's not my favorite theme from Cold Steel, like, coming to the battle themes. Cold Steel 4 is my favorite, because to me, it just sounds like an anime opening, and so I dig it. This one, I don't know if I would put it above Glint of Cold Steel or not. They're kind of like a 1A, 1B, because I think they're both really, really good for different reasons. What were some of the other things? Because, I try to write down what some of them are. Oh, the opening song, I don't think it's as good as Cold Steel 1's, but I still really like it. The super range version of Tidal Link of Arcus is so good. That is, honestly, I think of it as one of my favorite tracks from the series. I don't really want to make a list of my favorite tracks from the series because, A, there's a lot, and, I can't do a top 10, there's too many, and I don't want to do anything more than a top 10 because these videos are long enough as is. I don't know how long that would go, but that's a banger. Blue Destination, I said, Decisive Collision, Heated Mind. Okay, so I think that was really it, but, and again, there's other good songs, but those are the ones that, like I was saying, I can name shit from Sky off the top of my head. I could do it with Crossbell. These are the ones that I can do with Cold Steel 2, and I feel like there is a good amount. The other thing is the character designs, because in Cold Steel 2, eventually, at the end of the game, and honestly, I think it's in the... coughing again. Shit, still doesn't go away. In the epilogue, everyone gets their uniforms back, but for the most of the game, everyone's wearing different outfits. And, I really like the outfits, because most of them are just hey, look, Elliot has a nice jacket. Fee has a nice jacket. Laura's got this badass long coat. Eustace just looks like a really elegant noble. You've got Emma just wearing this really nice dress. You've got Reen and his pimp jacket. I love the Cold Steel 2 jacket. I remember when the Xenoblade 3 trailer first dropped, and we saw what Noah looked like, and Clay and I just looked at each other, and we're like, bro, that's the Schwarzer pimp jacket from Cold Steel 2. This game's already good in my book. Let's go. So I feel like, while it still kind of has the cheapness of Cold Steel 1 in the models and the animation, I feel like the character designs are a bit better because everyone's got some drip, and I feel like, to me, the music is a bit more memorable. So I'm going to bump up the score. I'm going to bump up the score from a 3 from Cold Steel 1 to now it's a 4. That's what happens with more memorable music and drip. So moving on to the gameplay. Oh boy. I'm sorry, I just realized how that sounded. It's oh boy, I'm about to shit on the gameplay. No, I love playing Cold Steel 2. Now, I will admit, something I do feel like I have to say, one of those problems that I can't gloss over. If you know what you're doing, this game is busted as hell. It is so easy to break it in half, and I know Clay did that. I know there's an infamous way to play it where you just have Laura kill everything in one hit. And from what I understand, it is not that hard to do. I will say I didn't do it. And that's not me going, I didn't want to make the game super easy, I wanted to play it the hard, tough way. I wanted to grind my way. No, I just didn't do it because I was inexperienced at really building characters. Because like I said, most JRPGs I have played don't have this level of character customization. I played a bit more, like Final Fantasy 6 and 7. That I tried, like, especially in 6, I had people, like, cracked as hell. We were, like, double casting Ultima and shit. Final Fantasy X is, I don't want to go on a tangent. That is a game where you can really customize people. Like, I had Yuna and Lulu, like, double casting Ultima by the end of the game. I love shit like that. But I didn't really know how to build people stupid when I was playing Cold Steel 2, like I do at this point. So I didn't have the super unga bunga ooga booga builds. So for me, while I know the game is unbalanced and it's really easy to break and I have to bring it up, it was not part of my experience. So it's not something that I feel like I can give points. I can't give or take away points based on that. So moving on, one of the first big things I have to say, and like comparing it to Azure, which I'm going to be doing quite a bit because they're both part 2s of a story, while in Azure, your characters are all nerfed into the ground, and by the end of the game, they get back to where they were in the first game. And that's not a story thing, like in Kingdom Hearts 3, where it's like, oh, I'm really weak, I need to get everything back. It's, no, we're just nerfed because we were too good. Cold Steel 2 is, no, you have to, like, get back your quartz and your spells and shit. You start with the crafts you had in the last game. And as you level up, your crafts are going to improve. They're going to get stronger. They're going to have, like, better effects. Sometimes they just get additional effects. You get additional new S-crafts. So you really feel like we are getting better. We are improving. We are evolving. And I love that. I love that sense of character growth I get in this game for everybody. Also, as part of the story, and, we'll get to it when we get to it, Reen can now use his ogre power as an actual mechanic. It is his spirit unification. He's like, okay, I'm going to give myself a massive buff. And how many turns is it? I believe it lasts 3 turns, like 100 CP, so it ain't cheap. But it's really good. And again, it's that character growth. It's like, not only is he getting more shit, it's also part of the story, which is how the S-crafts work in Cold Steel 1. I don't remember if I brought that up. But in basically every other Trails game before this, characters started with an S-craft. And, as the series would progress, like usually in the second game, they would get an additional S-craft or would improve, etc., etc. In this, it was, once it's their arc, once they've had some character growth, whatever, then they get their S-craft. I like that and I don't like it. I like starting with them because that's just nice, but I do like it usually being tied to the character. In Cold Steel 2, since they've already had their shit, I think Emma's is the only one. Emma and then Spirit Unification are specifically tied to your character growth gets you a new S-craft. I mean, Spirit Unification isn't technically an S-craft, but it's 100 CP, it's an S-craft. With everyone else, it's just, no, you hit this level. You have grown this much. Here you go. Here's your improved S-craft, and then here's your completely... I don't know, because I know some people get an improved S-craft and a new one. Other people just get a new one. I think my favorite is Shadow Brigade, which is Feed just making a bunch of clones and going apeshit with them, and I think it's so freaking cool. So, I love that. Also, like in Azure, they add a host of new playable characters. It's basically Sarah is a fully playable character for, like, once you hit the end of Act 1. Everyone else is a guest. You get Elise at the very start of the game. You get the adults who are with you throughout different points of Act 1, which is Toval, Claire, and Sharon. There is a very short section where Toa is playable. Angelica is playable, I believe, for only one chapter. Or, like, one arc. It's the Ruhr arc. I don't think she's playable in the rest of the game. Not including the epilogue. I'll talk about that in a second. And if I'm correct... And then there's Alphen, who's playable in the intermission. Then... after you beat the game, there's this crossbell section where you play as Lloyd and Rishia. And then at the end of the game in the epilogue, everyone you have played as is 100% available, with additional characters who can be unlocked by paying Mira, which, in-game currency. And given how far you are into the game, it's not that hard to get those. So you can unlock Lloyd and Rishia by doing that. You can unlock Altina, who is a boss, and you can unlock Crow and Vita, who are 2 of the main antagonists in the game. Oh my goodness. So in Azure, it's like, here's the new characters. Noel to me kind of sucks. Wazy, supposed to be broken as hell. I couldn't get him to work. I think he sucks. Dudley, he's fine. Rishia, really, 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 really good. So there's like one new good character. Good new character. This game, Elise, I didn't use her. I don't like the character. I literally talked about her the last video that I threw up. She's whatever. Alphen, solid. Like, she's very ooga booga, and we like that. We like characters who are strong with magic. Her S-Craft is a shield S-Craft, which, having played SC, is really, really useful. Basically, having played every other game, because I didn't need it in Cold Steel 1 and 2. Every other game, you're like, no, this shit is a necessity. So I was like, alright, that's fine, I guess. But, like, when she's playable in the intermission, though, it's really hype. Toval, super fast caster. Claire, really strong crafts. Sharon has this stupid craft called Tea Time, where in just the middle of combat, busts out a table, pours everyone some tea, and I don't remember exactly what it does. I should have looked it up. If I remember correctly, it's like, oh yeah, it gives you like everyone a bunch of CP, heals, and I think it gives some stat buffs. Like, this thing is ridiculous. Like, this is Holy Bullet on steroids. This is what happens when you have a playable enforcer. You do stupid shit. Sarah, really fucking strong. Like, I'm pretty sure I had her in my main party at all times, unless there was like a specific reason why she couldn't. I'm like, no. This is my homegirl. She's a monster. Let's go. Lloyd and Rishia, I just had no connection to them because I hadn't played Crossbell yet. So I was like, they're okay. They're pretty cool, I guess. I mean, they're kind of fun, but whatever. I never played as Altina. Because like I said, you have enough mirror that you can buy like these characters. I didn't have enough to buy all of them. I will not deny that. I was like, I don't really have an attachment to her. I don't care. Because Cold Steel 3 is after this, and that's what Altina is like. This is one of my favorite characters in the series. But in 2, I think she's okay. Playing as Crow and playing as Vita is so stupid fun. Like, bro, I'm playing as like the main antagonists of the game. 2 really fucking strong characters, and boy, do they live up to it. And then there's Toa. So she has a craft. I believe she's the only character in the entire series that has a craft like this. I can't think of another one, but it's called Weakener. And it does exactly what you think it does. It is a scan, and after scanning, the enemy will just, for every element, they become weaker to it. So if they're resistant, their resistance is lessened. Depending on the numbers, I think it increases it by like 20 or 40. So it's like, oh, you can go from being resistant to something to neutral. You can go from neutral to weak. You can go from weak to like crippling. It is such a good move. I think for the final, like the true final boss, it's like, okay, I had Toa scanning, Vita nuking, Claire doing whatever she was doing, like Sharon was supporting. I don't remember who else I had. I think I had Sarah, but like Sarah was on the bench because everyone else was just hauling ass. I had Crow doing shit. It was so fun. Oh my gosh. It's just a blast. Like I said, I didn't have my characters in a way where I was like stupid broken, but I felt strong. I felt like I can take on anything. I have so much cool shit at my disposal. Let's go. And even with all that said, the final dungeon was hard. I'm not gonna lie. Again, I feel like now with my experience with the series and the systems, I feel like I could probably build characters in a way where I'm like, okay, I can do this and it's not gonna be nearly as hard. But I had trouble in those final fights. When I'm fighting Duvali and Blue Blanc and they're like 3 robot dudes, like, shit, this is not easy. When I'm fighting Xeno, actually, I don't think Xeno and Leo, were all that bad. I was like, I gotta be smart about this, but it wasn't too hard. McBurn was a nightmare, because like my build is more about magic, just like blasting people. Like, oh great, he has no weaknesses, he's immune to fire. I think he's resistant to all the main elements. Like, only the higher elements will, like, really do damage to him. Like, shit. This is bad. And yeah, he gave me a lot of trouble. And then the Crow Vita fight, that was hard. Like, that took me, I don't know how many attempts. It wasn't like, dude, I'm here for like 12 hours. I think it took me like 2, 3, maybe 4. But I think it was probably about like 3. It was not easy. I felt like I had to really earn these fights, but it made them memorable. And like, we'll kind of talk about that when I get to SC, but when that kind of shit happens, especially with the way it is written, which again, you know, if you're blasting through the fights because of how unbalanced the game can be, and it's written as like, man, these are really tough people, and then you do the fight and your characters are like, this was so hard, man, how strong are they? All right, well, we're about to go use our full power. Oh no, I don't think we could beat them. And you're just like, yeah, it took me like 2 minutes. This was easy as hell. But for me, with my experience of like, no, it took everything I had to beat some of these fights. When that kind of shit happens, I'm like, no, I resonate with this. This is accurate. And I love that. Because, man, there's other games in the series where they do those tropes. They're like, man, I don't know if we can take them. I'm like, no, guys, that was easy. I blinked and we won. Come on. Cold Steel 2 is one of the only games where, again, with my experience, I really, really felt that. So let's see. The character growth, the new people, the final dungeon. The only other things is I remember there's an overdrive mechanic. And if I remember correctly, it was if 2 characters are linked and they overdrive, they get like 3 free turns. Not each. I believe it's 3 total. Or it's like, all right, you can do something, you can do something, you can do something. And there's like no interruptions. I think also spells are cast automatically. I think if you chrono burst, though, it counts toward your turn total, so it's not a good idea. Like, again, it's one of those things where I remember it was in the game, and I know I used it. I remember thinking, like, this is a really cool mechanic, this is really fun, and Cold Steel 2 is the only game it's in. And I definitely liked it, but I don't remember it super well, but I do remember, like, it came in clutch, I thought it was cool. The only other thing to talk about when it comes to gameplay are the Divine Knights, which somehow I completely forgot to talk about the first game, but it was also, literally the end of the first game is, after finishing the old schoolhouse, you get a giant robot friend. And then Crow's like, hi, I also have a giant robot friend, and I'm a bad guy. You guys fight, and then Reen, his robot friend, Valimar, and Celine, which is Emma's pet cat, all basically go to, like, the other side of the world. I don't want to say the other side, like, the other side of the country, into the mountains, because, like, okay, shit's going down. We need to get Reen and Valimar out of here. Boom. The final boss of Cold Steel 1 is a fight between the mechs. And again, it's kind of one of those things where if I had played the other games, I'd be like, what the fuck? We have a mech? I'm like piloting the thing from the end of FC. What? This is insane. It was my first game, so I'm like, oh, cool, I guess there's mechs. This tracks, I guess. I suppose this is normal. The final boss fight in the mechs, I don't like it. It just doesn't feel very fun. It's just kind of weird. Cold Steel 2 takes that and is like, okay, we're going to make this like a mechanic. At the end of every arc, Reen is going to summon his Divine Knight. What is it? Heed my call, Valimar, the Ashen Knight! Acknowledged. And Valimar shows up, and then you're in the robot, and then you fight another big thing. Usually, I think it's always a giant robot. I'm trying to remember if you ever just fight like a big monster. I don't think you do. But it's been a while. But like you fight people in other mechs. You fight Crow. I don't remember how many times you fight Crow and Ordine. I know at least once at the end of the game. I don't remember if you fight him in the intermission, because I know you fight Crow one-on-one in Spirit Unification mode. There might be a Valimar or Dean fight. That's not, because I think that's when like his sword breaks, because you have to reforge Valimar's sword. It's part of the story. Anyways, point. Divine Knight combat in this game is the best it is in the entire series. I don't know if that's a hot take. I don't think it should be. In 3, it's fun. I like it. In 4, it's kind of ass because they're just damage sponges. Like, 2 feels like more tactical. It feels like you're kind of playing this game of rock, paper, scissors while you're in a robot. And there's like, okay, like, how do I want to do this? Like, should I attack? Should I defend? And I mean, there is that in 4, but I feel like it's like, with the HP values being so high, how much obscene damage they do, and then like halfway through the fight, they'll just be like, ha, time for me to go all out. Heal like 100,000 HP, or probably more than that, and then get super buffed, hit you with a super, and then you like fucking die. It sucks. In this game, it feels more even across the board. It feels more tactical. It's just really, really fun. The whole game is really, really fun. Divine Knight combat, it's hype. It's cool as hell. Seeing your characters grow and get stronger. Hype. Cool as hell. All these new characters, they're hype. They're cool as hell. This is a 5 out of 5 gameplay game for me. I'm sorry. I know it has its problems. I know it's not balanced. I had so much fun playing this game. And I think a lot of that is why I was like, I have to play these others, man. This was so good. I could not put this game down. Let's go. Okay, my shoulder is giving me some trouble from holding the phone, so I'm going to have the other arm hold the phone. So camera angle is going to be a little different. We'll just kind of see how that goes. So, the narrative and story of Cold Steel 2. I feel like I need to start by talking about the things that I don't like. The little annoyances I have, and then I can get back to gushing about how much I love it. Annoyance number 1. They talk about how Class 7 is a neutral faction, because the Civil War is between, I feel like I said this in the last video, the nobles and their alliance, and I believe they're referred to as like the Reformist faction, but it's like, if I remember correctly, it's the Iron Bloods and the military, and they're going against like the nobles and their provincial armies. And the nobles also have the terrorists on their side, they have Ouroboros on their side, and, well, I mean, Crow is also one of the terrorists. So, like, they've got that shit. They also have their own Divine Knight because of Crow. So, like, they've got a lot of shit in their favor. And Class 7 is like, we are a neutral faction. We are not trying to help either side win. We are just trying, like, we just want to end the war, and if anyone gets too out of line, we are trying to stop them. Fair enough. The problem with that is the execution. The execution of the story is the Reformist faction, they're all really cool. One of the Iron Bloods is just straight up so one of the Iron Bloods is a member of Class 7, that's Milliam, so she is a party member. Another one, Claire, becomes a party member and helps you out. The military is completely on your side. They help you out, you help them out, everything is good. The Noble Alliance are the antagonists. They're the ones that are allied with the Snakes. They're the ones that, like, kidnap Elliot's sister at one point. They're the ones that hold Elisa's mom and... wasn't her mom? Yeah, I believe it's, like, her mom at, like... yeah, I don't know why I can't speak. They hold her hostage. They're the ones who burn a town to the ground because they're like, oh, we heard that you were helping those kids. Fuck you. They are the clear-cut antagonists of the game. And there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is, you can't say, hey, we're a neutral faction, we're not helping any side, also, we are helping them fight you because you guys are bad. If you want to just make them the antagonist, you can just make them the antagonist. I think what would have been better is instead of saying we are a neutral faction, it's we are an independent faction. And that's a very, very small change. That's why it's like, it annoys me, it bothers me, but it's not the worst thing ever. Let's say it's like, look, we are not affiliated with the Reformist faction. They got their own shit, we got our own shit. But we understand and we can agree, you guys are a problem and we are going to stop you. And yeah, if they step out of line, we'll do something about it. Here's the thing, nobles, they haven't stepped out of line because they're not terrible people, laughs in Cold Steel 3 and 4. But at this point, they have given us no reason to want to screw with them. So, it bothers me. It's not the worst thing in the world. Another thing that I consider an issue with the game, excuse me, is the relationship between Reen and Crow. Because the way it's written in Cold Steel 2 makes it feel like it was written a lot better in Cold Steel 1. Like, the way they talk to each other, it seems like they're these really close friends, and that they've been close for a long time, and Crow turning out to be, like, a fucking terrorist and a traitor is something that shakes Reen to his core. And when they fight, it's like he has to fight his brother. Like, it feels like that's how they want to present it. But Crow joined Class 7 really late. So, me as the player, I didn't feel like I had this very strong connection to him. I also didn't feel like Reen had that strong of a connection to him. So, I didn't super click with that. They have a few moments in Cold Steel 1, like, for sure, but not as many or as strong as, like, Reen and Elisa, or how at the very start of the game, like, he clicks with Elliot and Gaius, and to be fair, it's not like he has a whole lot with Gaius later anyways, but they had that early connection. Like, he solves a lot of problems for a lot of his friends, so you're like, oh, okay, I get it, I vibe with it, and they've been around each other long enough, so they almost kind of get grandfathered in. To me, Crow never really had that. And you could argue maybe that was also the idea of he wanted to keep himself distant from everybody, which makes total sense to me. But I don't know if the way their relationship is written in Cold Steel 2 quite reflects that. However, having thought about it a little more, I almost kind of forgive it. And like I said, like, it bothered me, but it wasn't the worst thing ever. But it reminds me of a moment in Firefly. So it's after the big damn hero scene, which is one of my favorite scenes in the show. And Simon and Captain Reynolds are talking back on Serenity. And Simon's like, hey, why did you come back for us? Wait, because you're on my crew. No. Like, come on. Like, don't bullshit me. Let's be for real. You don't like me. I don't like you. We all know that. Why did you come back for me? And again, this is not word for word. I think I'm saying more than they actually did in the scene. But this is essentially what he's getting at. It's like, why? I don't get it. We don't like each other. My sister is nothing but trouble for you. Why? Because you're on my crew. Why are we still talking about this? 2006. That line, that scene is like, it is my favorite scene in the show. And it's why Captain Reynolds is one of my favorite characters ever. It's also why watching Gintama, I'm like, this is just Firefly if it was also Seinfeld. But bringing it back to the point, I feel like that's how Reen is when it comes to Class 7. It doesn't matter if he likes you or not. And to be fair, I mean, he kind of likes everyone in his class. He's like, it doesn't matter. Crow, it doesn't matter that the two of us weren't constantly hanging out. It doesn't matter that we don't have all the memories that I have with the other members of the class. You're on my crew. You're one of my classmates. I am going to drag you back to school kicking and screaming. And if we didn't have all those memories, all right, bet. We're about to go make them. I'm going to do everything I can to reunite my friends. And I guess that's a good transition into talking about Reen. Because I believe I said in my... Alright, my finger keeps sitting in the way. I don't know, my shoulder doesn't hurt. Fuck it. I think I said in my Cold Steel 1 video, I'm like, I don't really like Reen in this game. He's marginally better in 2, I guess. But 3 is when he gets really good. I'm going to take that comment. I'm going to take it back. Partly. I think he's great in 3. Like, that part is unchanged. I think he's bland as hell in 1. That does not change. I think Reen is actually really good in Cold Steel 2. Having, like, really reflected upon my time with the game, thinking about shit like that. This dude's entire storyline, for all intents and purposes, is I got separated from my friends. I wake up like a couple months later. I don't know what the hell is going on. I don't know where I am. I have a giant robot with me, which is really cool, but also what? There is a talking cat that is kind of shit-talking me, getting on my nerves, and is the reason I am separated from my friends. Cat, you are on real thin ice. Fuck you. I need to get to society so I can talk to people, know what's going on, and I am going to get everyone back. And that's everyone, Crow included. The first third of the game is minus Crow getting the crew back together. It's one of my favorite tropes. Just like, yeah, the fellowship has been broken for whatever reason. We gotta go find everyone, see what they've been up to, Maybe it's a long time skip and everyone's doing well. Maybe everyone's in hiding because a civil war broke out. Like, we gotta go get them. So you get Machias, Elliot, and Fee. And then, Toval actually joins you first, and then he helps you get those three. And then you get Claire, because you reunite with everyone, like, around Gorelia Fortress. After that is Gaius, Elisa, and Milliam. After you get them, you also get Sharon, and then you get Emma and Laura. And then you have to do an arc for Eustace, and then you get Eustace back, which is also when you get Sarah. And at that point, the other adults are like, okay, you've got Sarah with you. She is a whole ass adult. Y'all are good. We got other shit we got to do. Bye. And then it's like, all right, we have our team back together. And it's super fun. It's super hype. I love that shit. Moving on to Act 2. Admittedly, this is where it gets to be a bit of a Dalmatian. It's a bit spotty. Nothing is really bad, but I feel like there's some parts I'm like, this is really good and really gripping. For example, Eustace's dad burns down the town of Keldic, which is when you went on your first field study. And the nice old man who was running the town, looked after you in the town, he died. If I remember correctly, I could be wrong, because I know he's dead for sure. I think he actually dies when you get there, because I think you, like, actually talk to him for a bit as he's dying, and then he dies. I might be making that up, but that's how I remember it. Remember what I was saying when I was talking about Azure? It's like, yeah, there's this terrorist attack, and the bank blows up, and a character gets badly injured, and the slums get destroyed, and it's like this big moment. But for me, it didn't really hit. This did. Because I have a nice memory of this place. And I mean, you could argue it's like, you should have a good memory of Crossbell. And I'm like, yeah, I do, but I don't really have good memories of the slums. Like, there's like okay scenes that happen there, but not anything I'm like, man, I have great memories of this place. Elia, yeah, she gets fucked up, but then the game goes out of its way to say she's going to be fine and recover, and eventually she does. And then the bank being destroyed, it's like, oh no, that's really important for gameplay. Oh, I still have that gameplay feature. Okay, nothing of value was lost. Here, I'm like, I remember this place. I care about this place. I remember that guy. I don't remember his name, I'll be completely honest. But I was like, I remember him, like, looking after us and being really cool. And that, he died for no reason. He died because the guy in charge is an asshole. And he's also Eustace's dad. And Eustace has a very, very clear understanding of how much of a piece of shit his father is. And after this happens, at this point he's already like, Father, I can't help you anymore. The nobles are all terrible people. I'm going back to my class, and I don't want to do anything against you because you are my father, but just don't give me a reason to, please. Here's the reason. And then you get a call from Rufus, also part of the Noble Alliance, who's like, hey, Class 7. So here's the thing. That happened. He is part of the Noble Alliance. We will not deny that. No one else in the Noble Alliance, like, said this was a good idea. We denounce him. We can't really do anything about it because, I mean, that is my father, you know. If I do something, it looks bad. It looks like I am trying to make some kind of power grab instead of actually doing something that's right. But if you guys make a move against him, no one in the Noble Alliance is gonna stop you. Please do this. Eustace, brother to brother, go take care of Dad. Please. The fact that you're asking us almost makes it worse. Like, it feels like we're doing your dirty work. We were gonna do this anyway. Now we almost don't want to. Almost. But we're gonna go do it. It's like, you like that. That's really good. Like, trying to reforge. I don't remember if it's necessarily you're reforging Valamar's sword or you're just trying to make a better one. Because I remember Crow just kind of lets Reen know. He's like, hey, Valamar has a... That's it. Because, like, you're using just, like, kind of whatever sword. And he's like, that is not the kind of weapon you use, Reen. Get Valamar a weapon that matches how you fight, and you can be better at it. Just night to night, homie to homie, let me give you some advice. All right, thanks, buddy. So you do a whole arc about that, which is also about Emma, and it focuses on her and her relationship with Vita because they're adopted sisters, which was a thing, like, as this game was going on, I was like, so are they, like, sisters? Is it just, like, we're both witches from the same village, so we just kind of call everyone sister? Or, like, did they actually grow up together? I thought it was a little vague, and then Cold Steel 3 makes it clear that, yeah, they grew up in the same village, but, like, they're not biological related, but they were raised by the same person. They are, for all intents and purposes, sisters. They are very close. And I did get a good sense of their relationship, like how close they were. I just wasn't exactly sure about what the actual relation was. And I'm glad that kind of got confirmed for me in Cold Steel 3. But so I think Emma's arc is really good. And then, yeah, it's like when you're confronting Vita at the end of getting all the ore, she gets another S-Craft. That's really cool. Eustace's arc is really good. Like him dealing with his father and all that. Sarah is actually getting backstory in this game. And she gets more in Cold Steel 3. Like, I think it's all really good shit. Machias doesn't really do much. Gaius doesn't do anything. It's Gaius. Elliot kind of gets his character summed up. I feel like his development is very subtle throughout 1 and 2, but it is there. He starts off like, I'm in military school. I just wanted to play music. I don't want to be here. I don't really want to get into fights. That's not my thing, but if I have to, I have to. But as it goes on, you do definitely see him getting more confident, comfortable with himself, comfortable with kicking ass. And it's like, yeah, when he talks to his dad, he's like, Dad, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for making me go here. I still want to go to music school. That part of me has not changed. That is my goal. That is what I want to do with my life. But coming here taught me a lot of really valuable life lessons. And it made me meet some of the most important people in my life. People I'm going to love forever. And that would not have happened if you didn't make me do this. Thank you. I'm like, I really like that. That's good shit. Elisa went from getting all of the attention in Cold Steel 1 to not getting a whole lot in 2. Like, I just remember it's like, oh yeah, there's like that arc where you have to go save her mom, and if you don't have her in the party, which I just kind of didn't, you just never see her. Milliam, despite being an Ironblood, she doesn't really get much. Laura doesn't get a whole lot either. Get used to that for Laura. It's like, I used her in this game, though, because, like, yeah, like, I didn't have the stupid Laura build, but I realized she is Unga Bunga. Like, not having her in the party is, like, you are actively hurting yourself, but she doesn't really get a lot. Fee, like, so, like, part of her Jaeger Corps, 2 of the older members are recurring antagonists working, like, hired by the Noble Alliance, and I love that. I love their interactions, because they're like, yeah, we know Fee, like, that's our little sister. She's fucking great. We hope she's doing well. And whenever they're interacting, it's like, yeah, these are 2 older brothers interacting with their little sister. And they think she's the like most precious, wonderful person in the world. And she thinks they're the coolest. She's also mad, like, you guys left after the boss died. And that hurt. Like, I had nowhere to go, no one to look after me, and I lost my family. Why did you do that? And then as they found out by the end of the game, it's like, well, that's what the boss wanted. He did not want this kind of life for you. He wanted you to be free to do your own shit, live your own life. And when he was gone, we all kind of decided we need to, like, not look after you. Not because, you know, we hated you or wanted to abandon you, but we wanted to give you that opportunity. And I really like that. Now, I feel like it was a bit misguided because I don't remember if they specifically left her with Sarah. I think it was that Sarah just kind of found her. I don't remember if it was something that they set up or if they kind of screwed Fee over. Like, the intentions were good, but they're also mercenaries, so I think they kind of fucked up the human element of it a bit, but I still really liked it. So, it's like the first act, getting everyone together, really fucking good. The second act of, like, doing all the other shit, some of it is pretty weak. Like I said, like, Elliot's sister gets kidnapped, and Elliot's like, I gotta go save my sister. Makes sense. And then Sarah's like, I like his sister. I guess I'll show up. You're like, oh, okay. And it's not, like, super impactful. And, like, Elisa saving her mom, it's not, I'll admit, to me, it was not super impactful. But they weren't bad. It's not like the bad shit in Azure where I'm like, you are actively ruining my experience. It was like, this is just not as good as some of the other shit going on, but I still like it. I have passed over the intermission. I'm going to get to that, like putting a pin in the intermission. But then after you do all that shit, then it's Act 3? I think, if I remember correctly, Act 1 is getting everyone together. Act 2 is a lot of, like, blah, blah stuff. I think Act 3 is getting the ore. Or it's the very end of Act 2. And then it's the finale, which is, all right, we're going to Heimdall. We're storming the castle. Actually, when you go to Trista, because you also go and you liberate Thors from the Noble Alliance's control, and you have an actual boss battle against Class 1 and Class 2, which I fucking love, by the way. Is it also Class 2 or is it just Class 1? You fight your rival nobles. Toa is playable for this one tiny little section until the epilogue. Like, you do this shit, and then afterwards, the noble class is like, okay, guys, we're gonna be honest. We already took care of this shit. We know we're nobles and all that, but we are not actually part of the Noble Alliance. We condemn everything they do. We just wanted to have a nice, good fight with you guys and to, like, officially end our rivalry. We're good. And I love that. I love that so much. But if I remember correctly, it's you go to Heimdall, get Machias's dad, fight Altina, save Elise, because Alphen's already been saved in the intermission, which we got the pin in. Then I think you go to Trista, do all that shit, and then you vibe, and then you go back to Heimdall, but that doesn't make sense. So maybe you go to Trista first, then Machias does his thing to save his dad, and then... Again, I didn't look this up. This is, as you can tell, it's just from memory. There's some kind of order there, but the Trista shit is really good. The final dungeon, I already talked about it. I really, really like it. The final confrontation with Crow and Vita, I think it has a lot of weight to it. It is like, they are the main antagonists. There's the Reen and Crow thing, which, like I said, like, it's not as good as I would have liked, but I've come around to liking it a lot more. Vita and Emma, their thing I like quite a bit. Thea confronting her brothers, I really like. I have not talked about Duvalie or McBurn yet. McBurn is, they basically tried to make a really cool character, and he's just really boring. He's okay. And then in Cold Steel 3, he's okay. And then in Cold Steel 4, he's okay. Until the end of the game, where he gets really interesting. Like, it's actually incredible. It's like, yeah, this guy sucks. Oh, this is fascinating. I cannot wait to see what they do with him, like, in the rest of the series. Dubes. Freaking Duvalie the Swift. I remember seeing her in the opening. I was like, oh, there's this, like, kind of cute girl, like, wearing this, like, nice suit of armor. She looks like this kind of noble knight. I want to learn more about her. Opens her mouth one time, and I'm like, I hope you never speak again. She's so bratty, so annoying, like, you're from the Arcade family, talking to Laura. It's like, your family sucks, your style's awful, you're so much better. My lord is the greatest, most cutest, wonderful, beautiful, badass person in the world. You guys suck. Like, that's how she talks. Like, she's so sniveling. It's hilarious. It's annoying. I can't stand her. Like, I hate this character, but I love that I hate this character. And like McBurn, it's like Cold Steel 2. I think she's super annoying. Cold Steel 3 has one of my favorite scenes in the series that makes me cry every time I've seen it. Like, we'll talk about that. It's when they go to Hamel. And she's still Duvalie, she's still annoying, but she's kind of getting better. And then Cold Steel 4 is like, okay, you're actually a really, really good character. This is fantastic. Like, your redemption arc is phenomenal. If I'm talking about the antagonist, I think it's time to pull the pen out. Let's talk about the intermission. So the intermission takes place in between, like, Act 1 and Act 2. After you've gotten everyone together, the Noble Alliance shows up in Ymir, which is Reen's home. It's the place of operations. And they kind of show up. They're like, okay, guys, so we don't want to burn this place to the ground, but we totally could. So here's what we're going to do. Just give us Reen. We're not going to do anything. We just want to talk to him. You know, convince him to join our side. yada, 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 and if he doesn't, we might just blow up his home. Whoops, we're totally the bad guys. But that happens, and one Marine gets on the ship. I believe it's Duke Cayenne, who's the leader of the Noble Alliance, spouts his bullshit, blah, 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 guy's just an asshole. But then, you, as Reen, get the opportunity, and he also has Princess Alphen, because I believe, when it comes to the royal family, there's, daddy, mommy, because I don't remember the names of the king and queen, or is he the king or is he the emperor? It's the empire, so he's got to be the emperor. Like, the emperor and the empress, I don't remember their names. Prince Olivert, I don't remember what he's up to at this point. Shit, I'm actually, really trying to remember, because you're using his ship as your base of operations, the Courageous. If I remember correctly, he actually shows up and he helps, kind of get you out of there at the end, and that's when you start using the Courageous, because in Act 2, that's right, because in Act 2, you're actually flying around on the ship. But, the main prince and princess, because Oliver is a bastard, are the twins Cedric and Alphen. Cedric is with the Noble Alliance, but he's not, with them. They've captured him without... No, sorry, that was not me laughing. That was me, coughing, and it came out my nose. But it's they essentially, look, we're kind of doing a coup and taking over, but, we're not going to hurt the crown prince. It looks fucking bad. But we have custody of the prince, to make sure nothing bad happens to him. That kind of thing. So he's under their wing and under their control, the poor kid. And they also have Princess Alphen. And Alphen is currently on the ship that Reen is on. It's an airship. So there's her, Cayenne, and all these other antagonists. You've got Scarlet and Vulcan, who are two members of the terrorists. Crow. I don't think Vito was actually on there, but Zeno and Leo, who are Fee's older brothers. Dubes, Altina, and Blue Blanc from Ouroboros. And you get a chance to just talk to all of them. So you walk in and Altina, and she's taking a nap, and Reen's like, oh, she's sleeping, cute kid, I'll just kind of leave. And then she gets up, she's like, were you going to touch me inappropriately? Why are you, you're a dirty pervert? And then Reen's like, no, I'm literally not. Why would you think that? And in hindsight, it's okay, this scene just gives me Monogatari vibes. But it's one of those things where, having not played other games in the series, I'm just okay, we're doing this just weird, creepy anime shit of a young girl thinking, oh no, don't touch me, Oni-chan, and Oni-chan going, why are we doing this? If I had played other games in the series, my brain would be going, why does this young girl think that this guy wants to touch her? Why does he think she's looking at him like that? Oh my god, was she part of Paradise? Does she know Ren? My brain would just be running with all of that shit. So again, the good and bad of these being my first games. But my brain did not go in those directions. It was okay, this was an uncomfortable scene. I didn't like it. Then you talk to Dubes, and she's like, yeah, my master's so cool, and you have to go here and go back to Crossbound. It all sucks. I'm can you not talk to me ever again? She's great later, but here she's just not. You talk to McBrunzo, and he's like, yeah, I'm really cool, and I'm fireman, and blah, blah, blah. And, hey, kid, you got, some demonic shit in you. They actually have a, interesting kind of lore conversation about that in, Reen's ogre power and whatnot. You talk to Blue Blanc, who is just a blast. I love this dude every time he's on screen. Does not matter which game. And he is the Phantom Thief. He loves to steal things, especially intangible things like hope and love. And by the end of the conversation, he's like, I've stolen your time. You're like, I love Rosie. I love this boy. It's just so fun. Then you talk to Scarlet and Vulcan separately. And they talk about why they hate Osborn. Why they joined up with Crow and the terrorists to get rid of this guy. Scarlet, if I remember correctly, it was Osborn had destroyed her home for, to build, a highway or, I don't know if it might have been a highway, or it was train tracks, a railroad. Thank you. That's why could I not think of that word? Build a railroad. I think it was something like that. And she's like, yeah, I've always hated the guy since. I was a sister at the church at one point, and it just wasn't as fulfilling, so I wanted to do this because I wanted to get my revenge. Vulcan, he's like, yeah, I was part of a Jaeger Corps, and we were hired to assassinate the dude, so we try to do it, and he murders everyone else in the Corps. All of my friends, like my brothers, my sisters, their blood is on his hands. And I wanted him dead. Now that he's dead, I don't really know what to do. You know, I've gotten my... And Scarlett's kind of like that too. They're both like, we got our revenge, but we don't really have anything else. Do we really care about the Noble Alliance? No. But it's work. It gives us something to do, so here we are. You know, is there someone I'm missing? Aside from Crow, I'm saving Crow for last. I think that's and then say, no, okay, Zeno and Leo. Because I gotta talk about Crow, then I'll talk about Alphen because of story progression. So Zeno and Leo, yeah, that's just one kind you talked to. They're like, yeah, Fee's our little sister. You don't have any impure thoughts toward a little sister, do you? Because if you touch her, you're dead. And see, it's like, the thing with Altina, that was just like, why are we doing this? Like, she's like a kid, that's weird. Fee is like the kid of the group. Oh, okay, that's Milliam. Like, she's like a year or two younger than everyone else. This didn't bother me, though, because this is just two older brothers going, hey, our sister's the best, and if you do anything towards her, you are fucking dead. And we are Jaegers. We are professional trained killers. So when we make threats, we will fucking like back them up. And Reed's like, got it. Never thought of your sister that way before, and now I certainly never will. And then I'm like, oh, you've never thought of our sister like that before, huh? Was she not good enough for you? And that's not a thing that happens. I can totally see that happening. It's great, and I love it. You talk to Crow, and I think you actually talk to Crow first. And he's like, Reem, let me tell you a story. This is a story you will hear anywhere in the Empire. Mine is the same as so many other people's. I am not some special kid. I am not, like this. There's nothing great or unique about me. My home was Dry was kind of a shithole. Not a great place. Very poor, very kind of seedy. But my grandfather was, one of the people kind of running things to the best of his ability. And I loved that man. I looked up to him. He was my whole world. Then Osborne shows up, and Jirai is actually doing super well. Like, I think, again, it was like, he built a bridge, or he built like a railroad or something, and it actually helped a lot. It helped travel, it helped the economy. But the grandpa, I don't remember what the context was, but the grandpa kind of got screwed because of that. And, he ended up dying, people hated him, etc., etc. I was like, so, after that happened, I blamed Osborne. He was like, he destroyed my grandfather's reputation, he ruined his life, and is ultimately the reason he died. So I said, okay, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to devote my life to killing this man. I'm not, like, possessed. I'm not tricked by anything. I just have my goal. Now, do I like you guys in Class 7? Sure. I had a fun time. I had a fun time with y'all. I had a fun time the year before with Toa, Angie, and George. You guys are great. But the Crow you guys know is just a front. This is the person I actually am. And the person I actually am is a killer. Because that is what I wanted to do. And now that I've done it, I don't really know what I want to do with my life. I really don't. I haven't put much thought into it. I just knew I have to get this done. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to do it. By the way, have you tried your fish burgers yet? Yeah, like, these are actually really good. Yeah, I made them. I'm actually a really good cook. Because I think Jirai was like an island or was like close to the water. He's like, so like when it comes to shit like fish, really good. If you join us, you and I get to hang out some more. I can make you all the fish burgers you want. And this was the moment I really feel like I fell in love with Trails. I love that the intermission goes out of its way to humanize the antagonists. And I feel like for the most part, it does a good job. I love Crow's backstory because it's not super dark. It's not like, oh yeah, I went through all this horrible shit, or it's like, oh no, like he's possessed and he has to deal with it. He's like, no, this dude ruined the life of someone I cared about and admired, so I made ending his life my life's mission. And I'm done with it. So, I don't really know what to do anymore. Like, it's simple. I think that's what I like about his backstory. It's very simple, very relatable. I cared about someone, and he took that person from me. So, his ass was grass, and I was mowing the lawn. To quote Deadpool. And so, like, I love that shit. Then Reen goes and he talks to Alphen, and they're like, okay, how do we get out of here? I don't really know if we can. You know, there's all the main antagonists are here, and it's only us. He's like, I mean, I know, and she's like, I mean, Elise tells me you got, like, the superpower. Do you think that would help? Well, I can't use my ogre power, blah, blah, blah. And she just kind of tells Reen, you did it to save your sister. She's not scared of you. She's not mad at you for saving your life. I'm gonna give you a hug. Calm down. Just pretend your sister is giving you this hug and forgiving you for saving her. You're an idiot. You know that. And then he's just kind of like, yeah, I guess I am. You ready to bust the hell out of here? And then he carries her carries her bridal style. And Alphen just kind of gets this look on her face like, oh, I think I'm into this. Oh, this is what Elise sees in her brother. Oh, I am hooked. And then, yeah, like, Reen just goes spirit unification, takes Alphen, and then, especially playing it on turbo, man is going Sonic the Hedgehog speed. And then, like, Zeno and Leo are like, all right, dude, we gotta stop you. Well, I guess we ain't stopping shit. And the dude was like, I'm gonna, well, shit. And then, you know, you get to the top, you have a duel with Crow. It's really cool, really hype. And then I think that's like when the adults show up, kind of save your ass. They're like, all right, guys, here's a ship. Toa, you're now the captain of the ship. We're gonna go do whatever it is that they do, because it's mostly just off-screen shit. But I love the intermission. Like I said, I love that it humanizes the antagonist. I love that we get a conclusion to the ogre power thing. For now, it kind of continues in 3 and 4. And it's all really good and really satisfying. So then, blah, blah, blah happens, as I've already talked about. Final dungeon's great. Getting to the ending of the game. So they have Cedric basically forcibly bond him to a divine knight. Like the Vermilion Knight. The greatest, most terrifying of all the knights. Laughs once again in Cold Steel 4. But then, you know, you fight that thing, and Crow dies. Like, dead ass, 100%. Laughs in Cold Steel 3 and 4. He is dead. Then Osborn walks in, like right after Crow is dead, and then he's like, hey, remember how your friend's life mission was to kill me? Well, he actually didn't do it. Ain't that a bitch? Like, just starts shit-talking Vita, shit-talking Cayenne, reveals that Rufus, the ace of the Noble Alliance, is actually in his pocket. He is the, like, premier Ironblood. Fucking kills Vita's familiar, and then she runs away with her tail between her legs, which doesn't happen to Ouroboros, like, very often, if ever. Like, holy shit. And again, one of those moments where, having not played the series, this was, like, really hype. If I had played the series before, I'd be like, damn, this is incredible. And then he shows up, and then Reen, like, grabs Osborn, like, by his scruff. He's like, how are you alive? Crow killed you. He dedicated his life to this. You mean his life was for nothing? And then Osborn's just like, calm down, my son. Wait, what? Yeah, you're my son. Boy. And then fucking fade to black. You're like, what? Wait, what the fuck is happening? I just realized I must have ingested a lot of helium. Then, you know, skip the credits. Then there's this part in Crossbell a few months later. Like, okay, Erebonia's invading. They have the Ashen Knight, which is Breen and Valimar. The Ashen Chevalier, that's his title. The Ashen Knight is Valimar himself. Like, they're invading, and if they get a lot, like, there's some very valuable information. We need to go delete that so they don't get it. So you play as them, you run through the geofront to delete shit. Reen shows up with Altina in tow because now they're partners, and he's like, I don't want to be here. I really, really don't want to be here. but I have a job. I have to do this. I'm sorry. So you fight Reen, continuing the trend, and you beat him. The data gets deleted, and then Lloyd or Versa are like, yeah, the day is saved. And Reen's like, oh no, I wasn't able to do my job. Okay. So then you get to actually do the epilogue, and I think it starts off with Reen talking to Claire, and he's pissed. He's like, you are really close to Osborn. There's no way you didn't know. Why didn't you tell me? She's like, okay, to be honest, I didn't know. 100%. I was like 90% sure. I was like, there's little things about you that remind me of him. And just knowing what I know about him, knowing what I know about you, I figured probably, but you know, I wasn't ever really going to go out of my way to confirm it. And Reen, who's like just lost one of his friends. And again, his whole motivation in this game is, I want to get the crew back together. I want all of my friends to go back to school, make some great memories, and graduate. And now he can't because his friend is gone. Just had his whole world shattered. Or it's less, okay, that was the shattering. And then his world got rocked with the revelation of, because he knew he was adopted. He's like, this is my dad. The hell? You, I thought, were my friend. Why didn't you tell me? Because there's no way you didn't know. So now he's lashing out at Claire. And he knows he is. Because after he's like, she doesn't deserve that. She really doesn't. I need to talk to her and apologize. I just can't right now. And then you get to probably my favorite narrative moment in the game. Because like I said, the intermission, it's one of my favorite chapters. It's when I truly fell in love with Kaseki. My favorite narrative beat of Cold Steel 2 is talking to all the other members of Class 7, Sarah included, and learning that none of them are going to stay in Thor's. They all say, Crow dying woke us up. Because we now understand our lives are on an invisible timer. We don't know how much time we have. And we have things we want to do that we need to do with our lives. Thor's just isn't what we want anymore. Fee, I want to find the rest of my family. And I think the best way to do that, I like to use my skills to become a bracer. Sarah, I am a bracer. I'm a damn good one. And with this shit going on, I feel like my talents are better out used in the field than in the classroom. Elisa, you know, I've had a lot of time to think and about my mom and the business and talk to her about shit. I need to go work. I need to go work at the company, work for her because she's right. I can't really judge her because I don't know what she does on a day-to-day basis. I don't know how much pressure she's under. If I can relieve her stress, that's a good thing. If I can understand her more, that's a good thing. And if I can try to wedge, or if I can try to fix the gap between my grandpa and my mom, that's a good thing. And I can't do that here. Eustace. Well, my dad's now in prison, so he can't run the estate. My brother is in bed with Osborn. Figuratively, not literally. But it's he's in bed with Osborn. He's not going to run the estate. That makes me the man of the house. I have to go run things. Machias. I want to become an inspector. And generally, you kind of go to Thor's first, and then you can do that. But my dad's putting in a real good recommendation. I have really good grades for my first year. All this experience, I'm can go on a fast track and do what I really want to do. And I feel like that would help my dad a lot. So I'm gone. Milliam. Yeah, I gotta go help Grandpa Osborn with all his stuff. I am an Ironblood, and boy, everyone else is busy. I gotta get back to work. Elliot, I'm transferring. I'm finally going to music school. It's what I want. Laura, sore. I think her thing is literally yeah, I'm just gonna go into the mountains and trade. I can always get stronger. I can always get stronger. I've met really strong people doing this shit, and I know I need to be better so I can fight them. Emma, Vita is my sister, and I don't know where she is right now. I want to find her, and I want to see if I can bring her home. Guys, because I'm sorry if I missed anyone else, but I'm just going off of memory right now. And then you got Gaius, which is, I just want to go paint. That's it. Like, I don't have any big, like, super emotional things I need to do or take care of. I just want to go home and paint some landscapes. Like, you do that, Gaius. You go do that. You go have a good time. And after everything Rena's been through in this game, the first one as well, but that loneliness and desperation, frustration, and anger he feels at the start of the game because he's separated from his friends, and everything he does to get them back together, at the end of the game, he's still alone. And I really, really like that. And so when it's like, oh, okay, the old schoolhouse is acting up like there's a big monster, Rean jumps at this. He's like, okay, guys. Hear me out. Let's go do this. Let's have one last big hoorah as just us. And I know we already did that. And one thing I actually forgot to mention with the gameplay is when you fight the final boss, like when you're fighting the Vermilion Apocalypse, you have to use everybody. It's like, okay, like you have your first party, it's kind of like your B team, and the second party is the A team, and then it's Rean and Crow and the Divine Knights. So cool, so hype, I love that. And that's something that Cold Steel really does from this point onwards. Like Cold Steel 3, you fight the dragon, same thing. Cold Steel 4, we fight Osborn, same thing. I love that trope in this shit. Anyways, point. It's like getting back. He's like, guys, I know we kind of had a last hoorah because we all had to get used for the final boss fight, but this is it. If you are all going to go and leave me behind, let's make one last memory, okay? And so because of that, I kind of regret, in a way, the way I built my party for that. Because I was like, dude, I'm going to use Claire, Toa, Sharon, Vita, Crow, just doing all kinds of crazy bullshit. Because it's stupid fun. Because they're all available, you might as well. But at the same time, it's like, it is their last hoorah. Because Cold Steel 3 and 4 is more of new Class 7's story than old Class 7's, except for Rena's part of both, because he's their teacher. I feel like I maybe should have just like, alright, this is Class 7. Maybe add like one or two other people, maybe, but keep it with them. And as the conclusion to old Class 7's story, I really, really clearly love it. I think it's like, yeah, it has its problems. I'd be lying if I said otherwise. It's a 4.5 out of 5. I love it. I had so much fun, like not just in the gameplay, but actually experiencing the story and some of their emotional beats and arcs. And I think the intermission is great. I loved humanizing the antagonists. I love Rean's conflicts. I loved the ending and how it just really hit me. Like, I never cried. I cried in Cold Steel 3 because Hummel scene. I cried in Kuro because the kaboom. And I cried in Sky 1 and 2 because Sky 1 and 2. So this one never made me cry. But it still resonated with me. It still hit me hard. So Cold Steel 2 gets a final score of 13.5 out of 15. And I will be honest, it's higher than I thought. I thought I was going to be like, yeah, like I really like the game, but it's kind of a guilty pleasure. It has its problems. But the more I was just remembering my time with it and how much I genuinely loved playing it and seeing where the story was going to go and all of that shit, I was like, I really love this game. And to me, this is the game that made me fall in love with the series. It's not the best one because it doesn't have Sky in the title. But that's it. I fucking love this game.